2, 1. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I am your host, David Streggy, and here in the room I have with me my buddy Boris, all the way from Croatia. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
And the girl who lives next door to me, she lives with me, is my fiance, Tammy. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello.
I tasked all of us to watch a film that was directed by Wes Craven in 1989, that was filmed in 1989, called Shocker. And before we go into our first impressions, I just wanted to tell you what IMDb says about the film. After being sent to the electric chair, a serial killer uses electricity to come back from the dead and carry out his vengeance on the football player who turned him into the police. So, first impressions. Boris, so why don't you tell us, was this a first-time watch for you?
Yes and no. Well, as it usually goes, the first time I watched it was on Monday when we were originally supposed to have our discussion, but yeah, then I rewatched it yesterday when we were supposed to have it again, but yeah, now here we are. And my first impressions were very good, I must say. This movie is definitely very unique. I really like how it can go from really scary and suspenseful to rather comedic and funny. And it's a I would say a very unique combination of horror and comedy, and I really enjoyed it a lot.
Okay. How about you, Tammy? Was this a first time watch for you?
No, I've seen it a few times. In fact, you had told me that I'm the one that showed it to you. But I liked it because it's a really unique perspective because of using the electricity, and the way it kind of falls on the same lines in some parts, like the movie Fallen, with the transfer. But
which we had covered either a week or 2 weeks past, ladies and gentlemen. So please go ahead and check that discussion out if you can.
But
Yeah.
I thought it was unique with using the electricity to, it was the electricity was what's behind all of it, and that's where you get Shocker from.
Oh yeah. I am fairly familiar with Wes Craven films. I mean, I did get into the Scream films. I did get into the Nightmare on Elm Street, which came out way before this. In fact, the young lady who played Nancy actually played the first victim here in his first in the young kid's first dream here when she's being strangled on the staircase. I guess that's the actress who played Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street. But I happen to know the main actor who played the bad guy in several different things. His name is Mitch Pileggi, who plays Horace Pinker. He played Skinner on the series The X-Files, which, if you know anything about The X-Files, it's it's basically like the supernatural element of the FBI. And anything extraterrestrial. Pink Pelegi played the guy that was their go-to like handler dude that was like in charge of the cases or giving them cases and whatnot, and he often went to bat for them. But he also plays recently on the new Walker, which is a remake of an 80s television show with Chuck Norris. So,
oh wow!
But he plays the new Walker's father in the television series. So seeing him as this young and being so evilly like comedic and you know, he really does have those lines where he makes you hate him, you know. So to me, I really liked this because you get him like laughing at them while he's on the when he's in the chair, and he's basically mocking the police, you know. So I think this is my favorite Wes Craven film if I had to choose out of all of them, because I do believe that it's got some darkness to it. You know, it's a, but it does have some light comedy in it, and it does play around with the horror elements. So, yeah. So, what do y'all think about the character of Horace? Per se.
Well, he's definitely supposed to be hated. Yeah, by all means, he is a horrible person, but the way the character is portrayed is very often amusing and hilarious. And while you're supposed to hate him, you just can't help laughing at what he says and what he does instead.
Finger licking good.
Yeah, like that, for example.
What do you think about Mitch Pileggi as Horace Pinker, Tammy?
I think he did a really good job. I mean, it's like he's believable that he's really that wicked, you know.
Mm-hmm. Well, when the film first starts out, you like see his limp, you know, and it's later that you realize that he's recognized by that whenever he jumps from person to person, you know. So, what do we think about our main kid here? Our main kid, Jonathan Parker, played by Peterberg.
Well, I actually liked his character quite a bit because what I especially like about him is that he fights for justice, but at the same time he does it in his own way. He refuses to follow the procedure. To him, it's more important to do justice than to follow some rules, and that's what I especially liked about him.
Okay. What about you, Tammy? What did you think about Jonathan Parker as Peterberg as an actor?
I thought he did pretty good. I mean, you feel sorry for him like right away because he's caught up in this and he's trying so hard to do what's right and to stop this guy, and he's having such a hard time convincing everybody except for his one good friend. The one guy stands by him with whatever he asks, and then you'll see later on he gets other people to stand behind him, but he's got that one friend that totally stands behind him when everybody else is going, yeah, right, or
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
I think as a character though, I think he's he's one of them. He's the good guy, and it just isn't working for him.
Well, right away, where we well, before I get into that, I I think he's brought out to be the typical jock, and to me, when you stereotype what a jock is, you put him in this category where he's just totally all sports, and I think it's somewhat comical that every time he's going to make a play, he gets distracted by his girlfriend. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. I'm not sure that happens to every single quarterback. But I would say that I did like that moment where the coach actually was like really grilling into him about his being distracted, and he was like, "And what about that naked topless girl over there? See, that's what I'm talking about. Get your head straight." And then he runs into the post. So
Yeah, that was pretty comical.
and then of course we get that first dream sequence. What did y'all think about that dream sequence? Did y'all realize that was a dream right away?
No.
No. As far as I remember, I didn't. I think, yeah, I had read the synopsis before I watched the movie, but I think the synopsis didn't say that there would be a dream involved, so I probably didn't know.
Well, one
Although
thing that I know from the Nightmare on Elm Street series, since some of those films were directed by Wes Craven, is that he often seems to use dream sequences in some of his films, and I think he understands the way dreams sometimes can be seen on screen, which is very effective. I mean, dude, Jonathan Parker literally just was walking with his girlfriend home, and he walked a little bit further, and then she suddenly disappeared. And what do you?
Yeah, I noticed that, and I was. It did leave me wondering why did she suddenly disappear. But yeah, then it made sense when we realized it was a dream.
What about you, Tammy? What did you notice about the dream sequence?
What do you mean?
What did you notice about the dream sequence? What did you like about it?
It gave you the dream sequences. Actually, I think gave you more insight as to what was going on.
Okay.
Because he had the dreams, and he could see what was going to happen, and he made
before it happened.
Right. He was making that connection with the bad guy.
Well, I also think that eventually we realized that maybe since he hit his head, it kind of knocked him into some like sixth sense kind of a thing, in a sense, Well, maybe because his real father was psychotic.
Will we find out? Will we find out later who his real father is?
Well, actually, now that you say it, that's an interesting point because the movie did leave me wondering where this, I don't know, psychic connection between him and Horace Pinker or whatever it was that was making Jonathan able to see all those things through his dreams. I was left wondering where that ability came from. Actually, it would have probably been one of my biggest complaints about the movie that some questions like these are left unanswered at the end. But yeah, maybe when he hit his head against that pole, maybe that did have something to do with it. I don't
I think
know.
that's what started it is that concussion. I think is what started the him having these dreams is the concussion. And then um
Ooh.
um he became more after he actually met the guy, and that then there was the dreams because of the concussion, and then the um connection now that he knows who he is
Oh
type of
yeah.
I think because Pinker was psychotic as he was, that connection to that psychotic that psycho personality, and then eventually coming into realization that that dude was his father. Eventually, was partially the kicker that made him more aware of the things that he was going to do.
well, a concussion messes with your head and your brain. That's why people who get a concussion are supposed to be watched at least for 24 hours because a concussion basically is your brain moves in your head. You have such a forceful something happen that your brain actually moves inside your head. So he got a concussion, and and Pinker is psychotic, which is a brain thing. So I think
Ooh.
that's how the connection started, is because the kid got his Jonathan got his brain rattled,
Mhm.
and Pinker is psychotic, and that's both things have to do with the brain.
Very interesting. I wasn't thinking of it that way at all. Very good points.
Well, yeah, his brain got knocked around, and that dude's brain is scrambled to connect the two. you know.
And we find out later that that's his father. So
I'm your father.
and well, that's basically what he's saying when he when he gets the treatment that he gets. Okay, so basically, what happens here is that he sees a murder before happens of his whole entire current family, except for his dad, who just so happens to be the lead detective involved in this series of killings that have already happened, where they haven't figured out who the killer is, and these families are just being like slaughtered. And that's one thing that I noticed, that a lot of the story is being told by the news reports that are happening, because right before we see the football scene, we get that whole report of the several slaughterings that have happened. So what do y'all think about the news reports coming in at the moments that we hear them? I think it's a very good portrayal of people actually like listening to the news in the background while they're doing things, or whatnot. That the media was a big thing that was involved in people's lives at that point in time. What do you think?
Well, it is good, yeah. Especially because back then, I guess the media weren't like they are nowadays. As I as I read on some meme or something a while ago, it said In the past, the media would tell you what happened and let you think about it, whatever you will. But nowadays, they tell you what to think, and you are left wondering if it even happened to begin with.
Oh yeah.
I think the
So
I think the
go ahead.
media, being like in the background, is uh, it's a good additive to the movie. It's a good way to keep you kind of keep the person who's watching the movie actually even a little bit more informed, just like the media is informing the people in the movie, but we're getting the information by watching it too and keeping up with what's going on. So
Correct.
it's a way of letting us know what's all going on without actually having to have them act all that out again. You know, because the media covered this. We know that this happened, but they didn't have to have that part acted out in the movie because the media covered it. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah, and I would say that also emphasizes the seriousness of what's going on. Like, if you find out what happened by following the story of a character or hear a character talk about it, then it's more something on a personal level among these particular characters. But when there is a news report about it, then you know it's something at least the whole town, if not even the whole state or the whole country is concerned about. So that makes it feel like a bigger deal altogether.
Well, also I should mention Allison, who is played by Camille Cooper, um, who plays Jonathan Parker's girlfriend, and she plays the typical blonde girlfriend, but I actually think that she's very pretty,
Oh
and
yeah.
and she's got a very honest face. So I do like the fact that they portray a very romantic atmosphere between them, and there's something that's signified here in a gift that he gives her, a gold necklace of a heart that he gives to her on her birthday. And what do you what do you both think about her as part of the story?
Well,
I
she definitely made a good part of the story, and at the beginning, I grew pretty fond of her character, and I was a bit disappointed that things happened with her the way they did, but at least they found some way to keep her an active character in the story.
What
I think
about you,
she
Tammy?
I think she's a very good character for the story, and I like that. I like how she is still used later on, and as a way to help, you know, help to catch Pinker. You know,
I think I like her as a character in here because yeah, on the one hand she is the love interest, but she's not just the love interest. She's an idea of hope, you know, and um, I guess she's an element of good versus evil, you know, because you got on the one hand the bad guy, and he's obviously evil.
Mm.
Where on the one hand, she, after she has been violently killed, you
Oh,
know,
yeah, that was actually, to me personally, that was one of the dreamer moments of the movie when Jonathan came home and you just you are just dreading how he's going to react when he sees what there
Oh,
is to see.
oh yeah, especially when the coach comes up to him and is like, "Dude, just go home," and then
Yeah.
he and it's like he just left home, you know, in the scene before, just left her before, you know. So when he gets there, and his dad's like, "You don't want to go in there."
Indeed. Well, I would say maybe it was a bit predictable that she was going to get killed with the whole thing about him giving her a present and the whole conversation they had, and then there was that sequence that looked like someone was watching over the house and so on. I already knew what was going to happen.
Well, I liked the fact that when he actually did go inside the house and saw the blood all over the place, even though I knew there was a lot of gratuitous blood, there was more blood that should have been there from there around the room and whatnot, just from a killing. Or do you think that she actually could have had that much blood, Tammy?
No, I think that was a little bit more than would be in her. Just a little.
Well, I must say I wasn't thinking about that. It's not like I have ever squeezed the last droplet of someone's blood out to see how much there is.
Well, that tub was full of blood. The walls were full of blood. The whole entire house seemed like it was painted with blood, you know?
Well, uh, the tub may have been partially. Might have been a mixture of water and blood. You never know.
True. But in any case,
Mm.
what did you think about the funeral scene of seeing everyone there? To me, see, that's when you get that news report actually mentioning him when he was 7 years old, seeing his mother get killed.
Oh, yeah.
That's when we learn a little bit of his past, Jonathan's past.
Right.
And then, isn't it after that he ends up going to the football stadium, and then he's with his friend Rhino, that's his name. Rhino is played by Richard Brooks. And also, I do want to mention that Ted Raimi, one of Sam Raimi's brother, shows up in here as the medical dude for the football ball team. Very small role, but he ends up playing one of the victims later on. And if you know anything about Ted Raimi, eventually he's in a horror film called Skinner, and he also plays a small bit part in Darkman, and he always tends to have like memorable roles. So, I mean, in Darkman, he ends up being like one of the victims that they run over, and you see his body just get pummeled in a sewer.
Indeed.
But in any case, Rhino is with him in the car, and he's, I guess, having a dream, and this is like one of those dreams before he has a dream where Pinker is strangling a woman on the stairs, and I guess he kind of tells him, "Hey, why don't you like pick on someone your own size or some shit like that, you know?" And it's me you're after or some shit, and he comes down and then he disappears because he wakes up. What do y'all think of that one?
Well, Actually, that kind of left me wondering what Pinker was seeing in those moments, because if Jonathan is supposedly seeing things in the dream exactly the way they were happening, yet in his dream, Pinker did see him, yet Jonathan supposedly wasn't really there. Then what was actually happening? What was actually happening at that place in reality? If you see what I mean. If Jonathan was not really there, then what did Pinker really see in that moment?
That's because they had that connection. I think that's why he could still. That's why he could see him even though he wasn't there. And Jonathan was trying to. He went. He purposely went to dream to find out where he was going to strike next to try to catch him. So
Which means that maybe he was in control of his dreaming in some way, shape, or form.
yeah,
Like maybe he'd figured out a way to actually put himself to sleep to do that.
Well, yeah, he had his
Actually,
He
I
what?
think
he had his friend in the car with him, and he told him, wake me up, evidently,
Mm-hmm.
because he woke him up. So
yeah.
So evidently there was somewhere at some point that he realized that while he was asleep, he could like see this set or whatever, like one just momentarily just will himself to sleep, and voila, he's in dreamland.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he wakes up and he ends up having his friend take him to the exact same place that he saw in his dream, and the cops are already there, and his father's like, "Well, why are you here?"
before he can explain it, everybody hears the screams.
Yep, and, a cop gets flipped over, and they run upstairs, and they see him have a woman in a chokehold. But and like I said, that woman in the chokehold is Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. Very brief, but she does a tumble down the stairs, which is kind of cool. If you notice real closely, she grabs onto one of the bars as she's tumbling, so that kind of helps tumble and helps stop her roll a little bit.
Interesting. I didn't notice that.
But that's when Jonathan Parker ends up and goes and chasing him. What do y'all think about that chase scene?
Oh, well, Jonathan definitely showed a lot of courage there, especially when Pinker walked over that ladder onto the other building and then he knocked the ladder down. But Jonathan still jumped over that gap between the buildings to chase after him, in spite of the fact that he could have gotten himself killed there.
I think that was quite after he jumped over the building. That was quite a fight sequence. That was like an all-out brawl, man.
Oh yeah, and there was definitely at least one serious kick that he got in, like that. That kick that he kicked into him and that he hit the door. That looked like it was like could hurt. Like if it connected with you, it would definitely hurt. And then when he got his face so close to that circular thing, it did look like his face was really that close,
Yeah.
But ultimately he got caught by the cops, and then Tammy, what did he have instead of a meal?
Huh?
What did he end up choosing instead of a final meal before his stay of execution?
Oh, the officers were talking about it that he didn't want a final meal. He wanted a TV in his plate, in his cell.
Which I'm trying to figure out where the hell he got those car jumping cables as well, because you could tell those were car jumping cables that were connected to the TV.
Unless because you've been in a cell, unless there was like no power in the cell, and that's how they were powering the TV, maybe.
I can't see that even with a prisoner, and this guy's on death row. You know.
I know, but it is a movie. You know, if they're showing that there's no electricity in the cell, then the cables might have been connected to a battery into the TV to make the TV work, because there wasn't supposed to be a TV or power in the cell to begin with.
Okay, maybe I can see this. Maybe I can see that, but even so,
I mean, you wouldn't think of them actually doing that, no. But it is a movie, and
okay. At this point in time, in 1989, do you think a man on death row would be allowed these things?
Well, no. But like I said, if he's on death row in the cell probably doesn't have any form of electricity, and he asked for a TV instead of his last meal. And maybe this was the only way that they could think of to power the TV, figuring he wasn't going to have the TV for that long because he's going to go get fried. So this is how we can make the TV work for a short period of time. I don't know. That's where I'm thinking about how that all came about. But is it something practical that would probably happen? No. But it would explain why the cables are in there, and why, because you know if you're on death row, you're not going to have all these amenities like a TV and power for this and power and this and that in your cell and everything else anyway. So
I do think it was kind of funny that the priest, after seeing him fry himself, basically he goes and like curses the place, saying blasphemous this and blasphemous that. I thought that was a little over the top.
Well, that's because the priest saw the candles, and by the candle there was a symbol.
Well, there were also books that were there that apparently looked like they were pretty ancient or old too. So those might have been like demonic books or whatnot too. So.
Well, yeah, the whole point of that scene was him performing some sort of ritual in order to make himself able to do things that he does later in the movie.
Which I'm not sure whether that element was necessarily needed, but maybe it was. The element that maybe he got the stuff from some ancient like ritual or something like that, or do you think it just added to it?
Kind of added to it because maybe that's how he got the idea to zap himself.
Okay.
Maybe he read something or whatever about how he could extend his life or this or that by actually zapping himself before he gets zapped,
And then, of course, they bring him into the down the hall, and before they even bring him down the hall, you get this doctor, who a female doctor, who's like looking at the chair, and she's got like a look of disdain already, and you can tell that she's a humanitarian.
Well, before that, before they got him there, they were checking to see if he was still alive. And
Oh yeah.
the one officer bent down and he was going to give him mouth to mouth, and he bit a whole chunk of his lip out and starts laughing and everything. And then the other gentleman, the other cop, he bit his fingers off, and that's when he did the what? There you go, David.
Finger licking good. and then of course he fakes like he's out, and then he's like, "Let's get the killing on," and that's when they bring him down, start to bring him down the hall. Of course, you have the doctor, and then they bring him in, strap him in, and I like his laughs. It's very maniacal and very evil sounding. In fact, right when they're about to, like, this is like one of the perfect examples of how a prisoner can like mock the system and mock the cops and really make you really want to flip that switch. You know. Like even the humanitarian, I'm sure shut up after what he's telling them. I mean, he's telling the kid that, oh, I beat you good, boy. You forgot that shit, didn't you? I beat you in front of your mother until she stopped me with a gun, and. He calls the priest a pervert. He even like says something to the guy who's like in charge of the damn thing, and finally the dude's like, "You heard him, boys." What did you think about this whole moment, Tammy?
Well, if you've ever worked in that kind of a prison situation, you know that that's not uncommon. They will try and get to you. They will try and say, hello.
Sorry for
say things to aggravate you. They will try and say things that, because they know, if they're mouthing off to you, they know you really can't come up and just slug them. They know it. So that's their defense or whatever, is to do that, because they know that they're basically at that moment they're in charge. You can't do anything to them. They can say whatever they want.
But what do you think of this? The way that he acted. Do you think that this was one of the probably best on-screen psychotic moments in films that you have seen?
Oh yeah, definitely, because he's just like, go ahead, I don't care, and he's mouthing off and saying everything he wants to say, and just go ahead. What else can you do to me? You're gonna put me in the chair and fry me, so I might as well just do whatever say whatever I want. Act out.
Indeed, for those who don't know that he is acting like that because he has already planned some things for the near future. What he was saying would kind of make you seem like a mindless killing machine.
Well, yeah. As soon as he gets in there, he's like, "Oh, you're here to see Death School, boy."
Yeah. It's definitely to make you not feel sorry for him at all.
Oh no, he definitely pulled that off real good, and I get a kick out of how evil his laugh was underneath that helmet that they put on, so that they keep your head from rocking or whatever, or rocking back, or I don't know what it's called. But ultimately, they flip the switch, and then chaos happens. So what happens after that?
From what I remember, he somehow apparently survives the electrocution, and then he disappears.
Well, not just disappears. His body ignites in flame, and I guess it burns to cinders or ashes, and then they think that they think that he's dead, gone, deceased.
Well, that's after they find him, but I think he first disappears, then they go looking for him, then they find him, and then he supposedly burns out.
Yeah, that's right. He disappears, and I guess he falls to the floor from behind a door, and I guess his body ignites, it burns to cinders, and I guess they think that's all that happens. But then the doctor, the lady doctor, is in the back of a police vehicle, and she ends up attacking the police officers that are in the car, and that flips over.
Well, nobody understands yet at this point that this is the start of him transferring from body to body. And he uses the body until it wears out, and then he finds another one. And that's the start of this.
Which is kind of fairly similar to Fallen in a sense, because that's basically what that demon did. He uses their body until their energy depletes or whatever, but it's like he uses the electric shock that's in your fingers, like every so often if you touch something, or if you touch a balloon, and you get that shock, for a moment. That's your body's electricity,
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that he goes on. Your body, I do believe, is a form of electricity in a sense. You learn that in science. If you connect yourself to a battery, you can light up a light bulb.
Okay. Can we test that later?
I guess maybe that's the reason why we have poltergeist activity.
Yeah,
no, seriously, we have poltergeist activity sometimes.
We have touch lamps.
Lights. We have touch lamps, and all of a sudden they'll turn on for no apparent reason.
Wow.
And they'll go through the 3 stages and then go back to where you had it, or they'll be on and they'll just shut off. So.
That's interesting.
But ultimately, this becomes a lot of body switching, basically. Switching from killer to killer, but you always recognize him by his limp. And I guess we have his girlfriend who comes back and gives him a charm. And then somewhere along the way he loses that charm. Yep. Oh. Uh-oh.
Very similar.
Very similar.
Yeah, not quite the same, but very similar. My mother happens to have this thing, and when I saw it, I did see it before, but I didn't pay much attention to it. But yesterday, when I saw it after watching the movie, I thought, oh, this would be cool to show during the discussion.
Well, in any case, um, he switches. Okay, ultimately he switches to the body of a cop who ended up in the hospital. In fact, that was the cop who ended up being surviving, and then I guess his body was overtaken, and he shows up at um, Jonathan's door, and that's a really weird like eye hole that he's looking out, and then he just blows that gun through that door. That I don't know what kind of gun that is, but that's got to be a cannon. You know,
Yeah.
because you don't just see like little tiny bullet holes; you see like chunks blowing out from this door. And so he starts going on a run, and he ends up shooting him. But then, I guess he goes into a jogger that is nearby. The jogger somehow gets injured and connects with the little girl. The little girl then gets into a dump a tractor and
I
tries
like that little girl.
Yeah. You like that little girl?
I like when she got possessed and she's like, "Come on, fucker!" When she wanted that.
Yeah, that was.
I wonder
That
if
was.
that's the first time that a child was able to say swear words on screen.
Huh.
Well, you know that George Carlin always said that there were 7 swear words that you could never say on screen, and what were they? Tammy.
I know that shit and ass was 2 of them.
I remember in the movie The Exorcist, we didn't actually hear the girl use those words, but her doctor said that she said that she used the phrase "goddamn cunt." But then later on, yeah, as the possession progressed, she was saying some things, although not quite in her voice. It was more like the demon's voice when she was saying things like "fuck me" and stuff like that.
Or are you thinking about the scary movie version of it?
Oh, you know what's funny? When I originally, before I watched The Exorcist for the first time, I heard people say that The Exorcist is like one of the scariest movies ever made. And then I went to look up some clips from it on YouTube, and I found some clips of the demon using bad language and so on. And when I saw that, my first thought was it had to be from some spoof of the movie. Like, this can't really be in a horror movie. But then I found out it actually was from the real movie.
Well, and then ultimately, after the little kid, the kid's mother had to chase him down, and then it flew into her, and then she connected with a construction worker that was nearby,
And then he said, "How do you like this body?"
Yeah.
And then he went after him with that pickaxe.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how the charm got lost, because he got a hold of the pickaxe. He picked up the charm, the necklace.
Oh yeah, that's when we, and that's actually when we actually first see him come out of a body. To be honest, where he actually somewhat tosses the heart onto the little kid, and he pulls out of the body, and then he just does a Raiden and goes straight into the woman. If you've ever seen Mortal Kombat, you'll think that or played Mortal Kombat, Raiden often shot straight across the screen or whatnot and into people. So that's why I call it a Raiden.
Yeah, good comparison.
But ultimately, after that, he gets together with his football buddies and his coach, which I'm kind of surprised that the coach is somewhat on his side, like becomes part of like this team of people that begins to help him try to get that stuff back, which is what he sends his coach off to do. He sends his coach to go get the scuba gear that he's got at his place because he doesn't want to go back there because it'll remind him of everything.
And then will be there because of the cop.
Yep. And by this time, there's an APB out for him because the cop was like chasing him.
Yeah.
But ultimately, he ends up going back to his place anyways because the coach hasn't shown up and shit. And he ends up running into, dude, as I guess he's jumped into his coach, and that's when we kind of get him. Well, I do want to mention the fact that we did get a ghost scene with the girlfriend. I think we kind of skated over that, and that's when she actually gives. This is while he's in a dream, and she actually gives him the heart, as like a charm. But we get another ghost scene. Well, actually, that ghost scene, she was more fleshy. But in this scene, she's actually more of a projection. More of a see-through thing, where she basically comes out from the bathroom is like, dude, you can use your willpower. You can control this. Only you can do that. You are strong enough to fight this. You can do it.
Yeah. Well, one thing the movie left me wondering at the end was how come Allison was the only one of the victims who came back as a ghost.
Because of the strong connection of love.
She's not the only one that comes back as a ghost. Later on, they all do.
Well,
yeah.
Well,
when he goes and tries to he goes and gets that heart himself, you see all the ghosts coming there to kind of help him, sort of. I think.
Well, in a way, yeah, but wasn't he dreaming when he saw them? Didn't they just appear in a dream?
Kind of, sort of, but they were kind of with him anyways. They're kind of like cheering on the sidelines, like he was at a football game. Except they were kind of dead. So.
Yeah.
But that's how I kind of felt about it. I mean, they were there with him at that pool or lake or whatever. I mean, the presence of them were there. So
I liked it when he was fighting with the coach and trying to tell the coach that he can win, and then the coach, decides to take his own life to try and get rid of him, and he pops out, and while the cops are trying to get back in, I thought that was a kind of a neat scene where he plugged himself into the outlet. That was kind of neat.
Oh yeah, see, that's why there are elements to me of like Nightmare on Elm Street shit in here, because you've got that whole stretching of his fingers to plug into to that plug thing. He's like, "Oh, just a little juice,"
Indeed.
But in any case,
And unfortunately, then that's when the cops come in and Daddy gets possessed.
Oh.
And that whole scene starts.
That's when. That's right, because he comes in and he has this moment where he's like, I can never believe that you were this, and if you noticed when he went over and touched that lamp, that when he got zapped, that's when he got possessed. And then that's when he goes on the run. And what happens after that?
Then that's when the whole scene starts of him chasing Jonathan. And they end up at that, it was at a news station because they're climbing the tower. And he's shooting at him the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He's a terrible shot because he shoots at him quite a bit. Then the shots hit the ladders, and it hits this ladder, and it bounces off of this. But it doesn't hit Jonathan.
And it just so happens that they end up on top of the tower, and he's hanging off of a satellite dish, and you get that whole moment where, hey, I'm going network wide. And so after he rescues his father, and he pulls him up, he gathers together with the rest of his football buddies who are still alive, and he hatches a plan where he's going to go and get that heart, and they're going to go to the source of the electricity and cut it off at a certain moment at a certain time, and he ends up going to the networks and saying, "Okay, guys, at about 5 minutes to midnight, you guys are going to roll camera, and I'm going to bring your killer to you." and they're like, "What do you mean? How do you? What do you expect us to just be here when you're not?" And he's like, "Well, I could go to the other networks, and they could get prime time or whatever, And so they agree to do that, and that's when he. What does he go do, Boris?
Well, that was a bit of a confusing scene, actually. He somehow... I remember there was this moment when Horace Pinker came out of TV and then Jonathan went in after him. But yeah, I didn't fully understand how all these things that Jonathan prepared in advance, how it all was supposed to function together. There was a bit of technical terminology that I didn't fully understand.
Hey, Tammy, maybe you can explain it better.
Well, he was trying to pull him out, and they ended up getting in that fight. And
wait, before that, he goes and gets the charm, doesn't he?
He gets the charm, but then he's fighting with him in his old place.
I did want to mention that all throughout this, he had enough time to make love with his ghost fiance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
right?
Time stopped for a moment there, I guess.
But anyways, continue.
When they're fighting, he's trying to get him to go to that room. Is what it is, where the news station is set up. So they end up in the TV, and they're going from show to show to show to show, and even the news broadcast says that there's been call-ins about seeing them fighting in each of these different shows, and then they end up right there at the TV station, and then out of there, and the whole idea is he's trying to get back to that room.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they finally do, he he's Jonathan is smart enough to realize he can utilize the remote.
See, I like this whole scene here where he jumps into the TV and they're fighting in all these different channels. Because you get to see some of the classics. I mean, he's talking to Beaver from Leave It to Beaver, and they make it look like he's actually looking, and Father knows best, and it's like when they enter like a moment behind some soldiers, they're like, "Who's that guy?" And they make it seem like they are actually part of these TV shows. And there's The Price is Right, dude. I think it gets in on it, and it's just a funny clash.
Well,
of
one
moments.
of the ones that they ended up on was it was trying to raise money. It was a spiritual show.
Yeah.
And they were trying to raise money for their church or whatever. And it's kind of funny because they end up on the spiritual show and they're fighting, and this is the killer. And
one thing I really found interesting here is how throughout a major part of the movie, the conflict between Jonathan and Horace is portrayed in a rather serious way, but then their final encounter is more comedified with the whole TV thing and everything.
Well, I liked it when Jonathan realized that he can use the remote control on him.
Yeah.
That was just awesome. And dude just didn't know it. He paused though, but he's just like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? How are you doing that?"
Did anyone realize how Jonathan's last name is Parker, whereas the original Ghostbusters was in 1984, and one of the characters was Ray Parker?
Oh, I didn't make the connection. Nice one.
I thought that was kind of unique because this is 1989. The original Ghostbusters was filmed in 1984, and I thought that was kind of cool. And if I remember correctly, isn't the song Ghostbusters done by someone called something Parker Jr.?
Oh, possibly. Let me check. I think I even have that song on my Halloween playlist. Let's see. Ghostbusters.
Ray Parker Jr. Ray Parker Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The song Ghostbusters.
Indeed.
It wasn't that it was a character. It was the name of the singer of the song. So I thought that was kind of unique. That Jonathan Park. Maybe it might have been inspired. I don't know.
And another interesting thing, not sure if anyone else paid attention to that scene, but when Horace Pinker got out of TV for the first time, I was reminded of the movie The Ring and its Japanese original version, Ringu, when I guess it's not a spoiler. Everyone knows what happens at the end of that movie. But yeah, your mind gets blown when you realize that Sadako Yamamura was not the first person who came out of a TV screen. Horace Pinker did it before.
No, I thought that was actually some incredible work because when you first see him zapping himself in the jail cell, even those power things that are coming out of the TV, those
Ah,
those look like static that would have been on a static screen, you know.
Yeah.
it,
And
it did.
I thought that this was a very good holographic, or how do you put it, a hologramic projection of an actual person, because it did look kind of real, you know.
Yeah, those guards or whoever it was, they did see something and they were commenting on it like, what was that? I guess it was just smoke and so on.
And then that whole going through the channels, I'm just going to say right away that that entire like channel flipping thing, where they were fighting through that's my like favorite scene. So I'm just going to get that out of the way. I don't know why, but that part was funny to me. Oh, and the part
Well,
where he was using the remote to bitch slap him, you know.
Yeah, he made him
yeah.
jump up and down on the bed, and he made him do this, and made him do all the things he made him do. That was just great, you know.
and
Well,
and
I
he
guess.
and he was saying like, "What the fuck," you know?
Yeah,
How are you
I.
able to do this? Well, you chose to jump into the TV world. Well, now you got to play by its rules, bitch.
Indeed, I guess that had to be everyone's favorite scene.
But ultimately, after that, what happens?
Um, he somehow manages to get out of TV while Horace remains inside, and Horace supposedly is left imprisoned in the TV world forever when they. I don't know, do they blow up the power plant or something like that?
I believe they just cut the power.
Oh,
Basically, but
They
no
cut the
matter what,
power.
yeah.
He
no
thought he
what,
could escape by going back in the TV, and they cut the power. When they cut the power, he had nowhere to go, and
Uh,
that killed him because he had nowhere to go, and before he could try to get back into Jonathan jumped through the camera with
which
the
the
help
camera then broke afterwards.
with the help of the necklace. The necklace helped him be able to jump through the camera because the whole idea was to shut all the power off and you wouldn't have anywhere to go. And that's what happened. No. When he went into TV, all the power was shut off, the TV blew up. Goodbye.
yeah, although he did say something like that he might come back next time Jonathan turns the TV on or something like that. I can't remember exactly word by word what he said, but yeah, then I remember reading something about that they were originally planning to make Shocker a franchise, so maybe that was an announcement of a potential sequel, which I think never happened, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's possible that this could have become a franchise. I could see it happening at one point, but he went on to bigger and better things, anyways. Uh, so, well, I'm not sure better, but the Scream franchise did go on for quite a little bit, you know. So,
Yeah, there were. I know of at least four movies in the Scream franchise. Were there more than that?
yeah, and there's a remake in the future. That's coming back with the same characters. So,
interesting.
But I guess at this point, how about let's talk about production? I know we talked about it a little bit with the graphics in this. I thought the graphics were spot on for this film. For the CGI of its time, I actually thought this was actually pretty good.
Well, yeah, maybe the CGI was not super realistic, but yeah, for the time when it was made, it was pretty good, I believe. And I'm not really picky about such things. I have seen movies done in much inferior technical quality, and I was still able to enjoy them. So
I thought this film broke several levels of like world stuff. I mean, they took it to like. In a way, I almost feel like it's a media propaganda film, where it's it's basically saying that your television controls you. You know, what you're watching it controls you, because after like the power comes out, how many people come out on their lawn like, what the fuck happened, you know? and they were all saying like, oh man, what a storm. And then of course it's a clear blue sky with like stars and stuff like that. And of course you get that little moment, oh babe, it's beautiful.
I think the production on it was really good. I think he made very good use of different things. You know, he combined the dreams and the the dude being psycho and the connection, and then when he put them in the TV shows like that, I think he just it brought so many different things, but everything was interesting and everything. You didn't know if you were supposed to laugh or if you were supposed to be supposed to be horror on some of it, you know, because when he sit there controlling him with the remote, you want to sit here and laugh your butt off, and this is supposed to be a horror movie. Wait a minute here, you know. So,
yeah.
I think he did a very good job of combining all kinds of elements to make you very interested in the movie itself. You know, it's not just a slasher. The guy's just not going around slashing people, and there's nothing else going on. You got all this other stuff going on, and it's keeping you interested.
What did you think about the remote, Tammy?
That was one of my favorite parts. When he had the remote control and he could control him with that remote. I wish I could do that.
Oh,
yeah, but your first comment about the remote though was like, what a remote though.
Oh yeah, because the remote, that's like a brick compared to the remotes nowadays.
That's true.
But I do
as
wish
well.
that I could control somebody with a remote. That would be fun.
Yeah.
I really.
Although
I know another movie that controls people with remotes. We'll have to cover one of these days. It's an Adam Sandler movie called Click.
Yep. That was funny. That's funny. I like that one.
Have you ever seen that movie, Boris?
I think I haven't, but it definitely sounds like something I would be interested in. I like stories with technology going paranormal and so on. Like,
well, this is a comedy.
Oh, well, I believe it's still probably fun.
Well, in any case, now that we've talked about production a little bit, why don't we talk about the music? We should definitely talk about the music. What did you think about the music, Tammy?
Well, I like the music. I think it definitely went with it, and It's well my kind of music. So
Well,
The music was pretty
I
good.
I think Megadeth redid Alice Cooper's song "No More Mr. Nice Guy" very well. I mean, they did it so well that I had to listen to it for a moment to realize that it wasn't Alice, but then I could hear Dave Mustaine's voice, because I do like Megadeth. But
mhm.
the very ending and the credits, "The Sword and the Stone," has been one of my a song that I've liked for a long time. So
Yeah. And Sword and the Stone. I've been wondering if that this is the movie that you went and like wrote it down and was like, babe, you need to find this for me. But this was at the time that we had actually seen it, and I did find it for her. So, and I think I found several different versions.
I think
So,
I've heard three versions. Yes,
you said that one of them was Mr. Big, and I thought another one was Saxon.
might have been, but this one in this movie was Bonfire.
Yep.
Cool.
And this was the one that I believe that you were looking for. So, it's too much of a coincidence for it not to be like the one where you wrote it down and wanted it to be on a mix of yours or whatnot. So,
I kept telling you about it, and we kept looking, and every time you'd find a version, you're like, "Is this the one?" No, but I like that one. Then you find a version. Is this the one? No, but that one's okay. I was looking for the particular one,
Yep.
and I do believe it was probably this one.
Well, let's see what else was. Yep, Bonfire did that one, which Paul Stanley had something to do with the writing of that. Shocker was performed by the Dudes of Wrath, which was written
It's
by
a
Desmond Child.
collaboration.
Yeah, Dudes of Wrath and Bonfire are kind of a collaboration with Paul Stanley. Paul Stanley was involved in a lot, hey?
Well, the actual Dudes of Wrath, though, when they performed the song "Shocker," Paul Stanley was singing, but Tommy Lee was on the drums on it. Rudy Sarzo was on guitar. So, I mean, you got people from all different bands that were part of this band for that song.
Hey, Horace Pinker even got his own ballad from Dangerous Toys. So, Love Transfusion was by Iggy Pop, and Different Breed was performed by Dead On. And that's pretty much what makes up the soundtrack. So, I definitely think that this movie it can be definitely known by its music as well.
Definitely.
Okay, now favorite scenes. I'll start with you, Boris.
Well, my favorite scene would probably be the whole thing with Jonathan and Horace inside the TV, or maybe also the very moment when Horace got out of TV for the first time, because it reminded me of The Ring, which is one of my favorite horror movies ever.
So, would you say
So,
that this has now become a one of your favorite films?
well, quite possibly, actually, definitely one of my favorite movies with paranormal technology, like with The Ring and Shutter and some movies like that, definitely.
What about you, Tammy? If you could pick a favorite scene from here, what would it be?
When he's got the remote, I just love what he makes him do with the remote. It's just great.
It is some pretty great moments because he's like bitch slapping the shit out of him with the remote, and he's like, "What the fuck?" You know.
I mean, I think everybody's gonna like the part where they're in the different shows and everything, because I think that's gonna be a very. But the other one, I like it when he possessed the little girl with just the attitude that came through this little cute little
Oh,
fun girl,
You son of a bitch!
oh yeah, that was actually another great moment. I I also like movies otherwise with evil children, also like The Ring, as I already mentioned, and Silent Hill, and Case 39, and The Omen, of course, and so on. So yeah, this was definitely an interesting scene.
Oh yeah. Alrighty. Other than that, I know that this film at the time had like mixed reviews. Evidently, the film received a split vote from Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert. Siskel gave it a marginal thumbs up, but then Ebert voted thumbs down. And he said, I felt it would have been a better movie if it had played with more rules. New York Times, Stephen Holden said, if the movie's metaphors are as obvious and as portentous as the heavy metal music that punctuates the action, Shocker at least has the feeling of a movie that was fun to make. Just when you think that every trick has been thrown in, but the kitchen sink, it goes into along with the stove and the refrigerator. So it's definitely had its fair share of being whatever, but I guess at the time it earned like 4,510,990 in its opening weekend, and it ranked second behind the third weekend of Look Who's Talking at that time. So ultimately the film grossed about 16.6 million in the US. So
Ooh.
Other than that, thank you for listening, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully you had a blast like we did. I was almost shocked. And I see that, Tammy, you're still shell-shocked. But hopefully you get a chance to check out the film, listen to our other discussions, and hopefully we'll bring back another exciting film. I think we are going to be covering The Exorcist next time.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that one.
So thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, and morning, wherever you are. Say good night, night and afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Good night.
Good night.